All right, Matt Steinmetz, the Guru Johnson with you, and let's get right to it. Ross Tucker, Odyssey NFL Insider. What's going on, Ross? How you doing?
I am doing awesome. As you know, I'm from outside of Philadelphia, so I'm actually doing pretty amazing these days. How are you guys doing in San Francisco?
Your boy's in here with his Philly hat and his Eagle jersey on, Ross.
True.
I can't stand it.
They asked me if I'm a Philly fan, and I said only when they win, Ross. Only when they win. Yeah.
You know so true, by the way. Some of my buddies that are really into baseball, but they follow me on social media, they're like, "What, have you been a Phillies fan for like 2 weeks now?" And it's true. I don't have time to watch baseball every inning all summer, especially when at the end of the game it's like, we lost. All right, we'll play again tomorrow.
Yeah.
We won. Yeah, okay, that's cool. We'll play again tomorrow. I mean, it's like baseball. I think it's the biggest difference between regular season and playoffs of any sport. I know that in hockey, the intensity's amped up a little bit. NBA, they play better defense. You know, NFL, the speed gets ratcheted up a little bit. But baseball, it's like two different sports. I mean, baseball during the regular season, it's like background music. During the playoffs, it's like every pitch is so intense. You guys have had a lot of baseball success recently. You know that.
Yeah. No, it's Giants won 107 games last year, actually. So Ross Tucker joining us, a team that right now is getting hit a little bit out here. Ross is a 49ers. Let me just throw these two stats at you. The 49ers ran 20 times and threw 46 against the Chiefs, and then the defense gave up 44 points. What's the identity of the San Francisco 49ers?
It's supposed to be a team that runs the ball really well and plays awesome defense. And it was kind of neither on Sunday. Not a good formula for them. I mean, I bet you somebody has the stat, but I'm convinced there's like an inverse relationship between Jimmy Garoppolo's passing attempts and Niners' success. Now, part of that is, correlation more than causation, right? It's like, okay, well, they have leads in games, so they run the ball more in the second half, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But still, at their core, they want to run the rock, get some chunk plays off of play action and boots, play good defense. Straight drop back is not their thing. And I think the game got away from them. I think the game got away from Kyle a little bit because he recognized early that the defense was not going to be able to stop Mahomes and Andy Reid. That had to be very humbling for the entire team and for Niners fans. You go to a game like that, because for so many decades, that was kind of the Niners to other people. Like, they come to Philly and it'd be like, oh my gosh, why can't we have Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and John Taylor or whatever, or Steve Young or whatever. It had to be pretty stunning for Niners fans to see the Chiefs come in and sort of embarrass them and put on a show like the Niners have put on other places so many times back in the day.
Ross, my biggest takeaway was defensively, and you just hit on it. Like, I wasn't even used to receivers getting that open down the field on Niner guys in the red and gold. My bigger question is, you get McCaffrey, and now the defense takes a step back. But do you think it's just a step back, or all of a sudden with the injuries piling up, no Armstead, Dre Greenlaw, we don't know his status, and it's just Bosa, and on the line, to me, it's Bosa by himself. Where are you at moving forward with this 3-4 team?
Well, the best thing, and I know you guys have talked about it, the best thing they have going for them is their division right now.
Yep.
I don't think the Cardinals are that great. I don't think the Rams are that great. I guess the Seahawks are leading right now, but, I don't know how long Metcalf will be out. I don't think they're that great. The reality, now they have to go out there and they have to do it, but I said this today on the Even Money podcast, my betting podcast. I still think the Niners win that division. And maybe it's, 9-8. maybe 10-7, but I still think they win that division. And it's kind of like the NFC South. I said the same thing about the NFC South. The Bucs are still going to win that division. And so what matters really then is, A, making sure you do win the division, because they're not looking good for wild card spots. So make sure you do win the division, and then be playing pretty well when you get there. Get these guys on defense that you think you might get back later in the year, get them healed up. But they can't be dropping games like they did to the Falcons. Chiefs are kind of a different category. And I will say this. I suspect that Kyle will have a lot more drawn up for Christian McCaffrey in these next few games. I mean, he got him on a Friday, couldn't throw too much at him. But I think I think the McCaffrey thing tells me two things. One is Kyle felt like he needed another movable chess piece, and that teams were kind of on to him in terms of making sure they always knew where Debo was. Well, now it's like you got two guys that you got to know where they are, which makes it a lot more difficult. And I also think you make a move like Kyle did, I think he kind of recognizes he's got to win this year. I mean, I don't think you make a move like that unless you think this is a big year for you and you're going to have success again this year, because it feels like it's more of a short-term move than a long-term move.
Well, I mean, I would just say, Ross, if the 49ers make the playoffs this year, that means next year, if Trey Lance plays, he could withstand a step back. But if they don't make the playoffs this year with Garoppolo at quarterback, then next year he's got Trey Lance year 3, but Trey Lance is year 1, and he doesn't go to the playoffs then I think we do have something to talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting that he made the move that he did. I think, let's not forget they went to the NFC Championship game last year, and they probably should have gone to the Super Bowl. And I think Kyle Shanahan deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, you go on the road against a good Dallas team, beat them. On the road against Green Bay, beat them. But I will say this, I don't think he makes that aggressive of a move for McCaffrey unless he felt like he had to have success this year, or at least in the near term.
Ross, can I listen? Today's show, the theme has been, and I'm a guy on the record calling Kyle Shanahan a genius, and that's at play design. But now, situational play calling, I'm worried. And I'm wondering now if C-Mac's arrival means, because in the perfect world, Ross, I'm like, oh, man, you're going to get C-Mac, Debo, Ayuk, mixture of Kittle. Now I'm wondering, are they just going to be a one-trick pony to where C-Mac is the new Debo, and it's not just the strength in numbers? But can I read something to you, and you tell me what you think, all right? Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin each have more TDs than George Kittle and Juwan Jennings combined. Mostert was viewed as injury-prone, but he's played in every game for Miami, and Elijah Mitchell has been hurt. Breida has more yards than Mitchell, Price, Mason, Coleman combined. When you hear me read that, is it fair that I'm going to ask Steiny and the listeners, like, is that fair to just – that's a head-scratcher.
That's interesting. Gosh, some of those guys I have to think about where they are now.
Right, but they're being productive.
No, I hear you. Look, ultimately, it's about how many points. Forget about the guys that are elsewhere. All that matters is what Kyle Shanahan gets done with the Niners now, and the last 2 weeks are not nearly good enough. Not nearly good enough, and the good news is they still have 10 games, and they're in a bad division. So they have a heck of a chance to get all the way back, and win the division. And they've obviously shown that they can make a playoff run as long as they make the playoffs, which they've been able to do. I think the one thing that's noticeable, too, is their offensive line is just not what it's been in recent years. It doesn't feel like that. Maybe it's because McGlinchey and Trent were both coming back off of injuries. Maybe it's because Steiny, has his Trent Williams voodoo doll because he thinks anybody can just be up there doing whatever and doesn't make a difference. Ever since Steiny said that, things have gone poorly.
By the way, he gave up a safety. Just run right by Trent Williams.
Hold on a second. I saw that. How about Jimmy having some awareness throwing the ball?
What's he supposed to have eyes in the back of his head?
He had get rid of it, Jimmy.
He's in the end zone.
Right.
Hold the ball for 6 seconds in the end zone.
That ain't no trick.
He was rolling out. He did. I'll tell you what. I don't know that Fran Tarkington can make a play there.
Oh, man.
By the way, McGlinchey having his best statistical season according to Pro Football Focus.
And he's laughing as he tells you, Ross.
Hey, no.
What difference does it make? Any big guy can just put up there. They're just bumping into people anyway.
Exactly. See, Ross is coming around. Hey, I do want to ask you this, though, because I've been looking at some of McCaffrey's numbers, and I think it's fair to say that if he's healthy, he's going to get 15 to 18, let's just say, touches a game, maybe 12, 14 carries. Hey, what's the difference, Ross, between those 50? Like, he's going to take those touches from somebody or a combination of players. What's the difference between him just gobbling up somebody else's numbers and a player who actually does make everybody else better?
It's a good question. I think what makes him unique is that he is really a tough matchup because he's treated as a running back, but he runs routes and can catch the ball like a receiver. So, he's out there with Juszczyk. I know Kyle had surgery or whatever, but on his finger or whatever, but he's out there with Juszczyk, and you're thinking, okay, it's 21 personnel. Usually against 21 personnel, that's 2 backs, 1 tight end. Usually, the defense has their regular personnel in, their base personnel, because they're ready for run. Well, then you split McCaffrey out. All of a sudden, the defense has to put one of their base linebackers out on him one-on-one. They can't cover him. Like that. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No.
What I'm telling you is he's like a positionless player. Like that's how coaches look at it. Like when they're scheming up plays, they are, what are the matchups we like and how can I get favorable matchups? And that's why everybody wanted that's why especially McVay and Shanahan wanted McCaffrey so bad.
Gotcha.
Because they know what he does. Heck, you could have 2 tight ends, 22 personnel. The defense could put in an extra linebacker because they're so worried about the run. Then you split out McCaffrey and you split out Kittle. And it's like they've got 3 receivers out there and the defense is in a bad spot. You can really mess with people when you have versatile players like that.
Ross, let me ask you about George Kittle. He's a fan favorite. I think he's a top tight end in the league, and he's got that wrestler-type persona to him. But the last couple of weeks, he's come out after the game and said, guys on the defense not named Bosa and Warner need to make plays. Went down the offensive guys from him to Jeff Wilson Jr. to Debo. They need more production. Ayuk's been quiet as a church mouse since he's been here. He's come out and said 23. They got better personnel than their outage in regard to points. And I told Steiny, I find that odd. Is that at the doorstep of Kyle, who calls the plays, when you hear players all of a sudden start kind of being, a little louder?
I thought it was strange. Yeah, I thought it was strange. I'm not a big fan of publicly mentioning other players' names like that. Not a big fan at all. I think he's just trying to get a sense of urgency and trying to make sure everybody knows that they need to play better. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of calling out. It's like Aaron Rodgers saying today about, we got too many guys making mental mistakes. If you're going to make mental mistakes like that, you shouldn't be playing. Hey, Aaron, maybe they wouldn't be making the mental mistakes if you had helped them in OTAs when you were, doing whatever you were doing instead of actually being there. Like that, stuff like that bothers me.
Yeah. All right, Ross. Thanks as always. Appreciate it, man.
You do.
All right, that's Ross Tucker.